What if I told you that three guys who couldn't afford rent in San Francisco ended up creating one of the world's most valuable hotel companies without owning a single hotel room? In fact, they started by literally renting out air mattresses on their apartment floor. Fast forward to today, and Airbnb is worth over $70 billion, operates in 220 countries, and has completely disrupted the 600-year-old hotel industry. But here's what's crazy. Their business model is so simple, yet so genius, that once you understand it, you'll see opportunities like this everywhere. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how Airbnb makes money, why traditional hotels are terrified of them, and what this means for the future of business. And hey, if you want to learn more about business models that are changing the world, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. All right, let's set the scene. It's October 2007 in San Francisco. Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia are two broke designers who just moved to the city, and they're staring at a rent bill they absolutely cannot afford. Sound familiar to anyone? Now, here's where most people would panic. Get a second job or call their parents. But these guys noticed something interesting. There was a huge design conference coming to San Francisco, and every hotel in the city was completely sold out. People were literally flying in with nowhere to stay, so they had this wild idea. What if we just blow up some air mattresses, throw them in our living room, and rent them out for $80 a night? We'll even make breakfast. I know what you're thinking. That sounds terrible, right? Who would pay to sleep on someone's floor? Well, they got 3 guests that weekend. And more importantly, they discovered something huge. They realized there were millions of people around the world with empty rooms, and millions of travelers who wanted something different from the cookie-cutter hotel experience. There was this massive untapped market just sitting there. But here's the thing they understood that nobody else did. The problem wasn't just about finding a place to stay, it was about trust. How do you get someone to feel comfortable sleeping in a stranger's home? How do you get a homeowner to trust a random person with their property? That trust problem? That was the real goldmine. And figuring out how to solve it is what made them billions. So let's break down the Airbnb business model because it's actually brilliant in its simplicity. First thing, Airbnb owns 0 properties. 0. They're not in the real estate business. They're in the connection business. Think of them as a matchmaker between people who have space and people who need space. Here's how they make money. And pay attention, because this is where it gets interesting. When you book a place on Airbnb, let's say it's $100 a night. You're not actually paying $100. You're paying around $114. Airbnb takes about a 14% cut from you as the guest. Then they also take about 3% from the host. So on that $100 booking, Airbnb pockets roughly $17, and they didn't have to own anything, clean anything, or fix anything. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait, that seems like a lot just to connect 2 people. But here's what you're paying for and why it's genius. Airbnb built something called a 2-sided marketplace. The more hosts they get, the more options travelers have. The more travelers they attract, the more money hosts can make. And the more money hosts make, the more hosts want to join. It's this incredible flywheel that just keeps spinning faster and faster. But the real magic? The trust infrastructure they built. Think about it. You're about to sleep in a stranger's house in a foreign country. That's actually insane when you think about it. So Airbnb created this entire ecosystem of trust. They've got verified photos, detailed host profiles, review systems where both guests and hosts rate each other, secure payment processing so money doesn't change hands until after check-in, 24/7 customer support, and get this, they offer up to $3 million in property damage protection for hosts. All of this makes people feel safe enough to actually do something that seems crazy: sleep in a stranger's home or let a stranger into yours. And here's where it gets even better. In 2023, Airbnb had 448 million nights booked. At an average of, let's say, $15 per booking in fees, that's over $6.7 billion in revenue. And remember, they don't own any of the properties. Their main costs are just technology, customer service, and marketing. Compare that to Marriott, which has to buy land, build hotels, furnish rooms, hire thousands of staff, and maintain everything. Airbnb just built a really good website, an app. That's the power of a platform business model. So why did Airbnb explode while other companies tried and failed? There are three big reasons. Number one, they solved the authenticity problem. Think about hotels. Every Marriott looks like every other Marriott. Every Holiday Inn feels the same. They're designed to be consistent and predictable. But here's the thing. People got bored of that. Airbnb offers you the chance to stay in a treehouse in Bali, a castle in Ireland, a houseboat in Amsterdam, or a cave in Greece. These aren't just places to sleep. They're experiences. They're Instagram moments. They're stories you tell for years. I stayed in this incredible apartment in Rome last year where the host left me fresh pasta and wine, gave me personal recommendations for local restaurants tourists never find, and I felt like I was actually living in Rome, not just visiting it. You can't get that at a Hilton. Number two, they're often cheaper, especially for groups and families. If you're traveling with 4 people, you could get 2 hotel rooms for $300 or rent an entire apartment with a kitchen for $150. Plus, having a kitchen means you can cook some meals and save even more money. The math just makes sense. And number 3, flexibility. Hotels have fixed rates and policies. With Airbnb, hosts can adjust prices based on demand, offer weekly or monthly discounts for longer stays, and provide amenities that hotels charge extra for, like free parking, laundry, or that kitchen I mentioned. But perhaps the biggest reason Airbnb works? They didn't try to compete with hotels on the hotel's terms. They completely changed the game. Instead of building infrastructure, they leveraged infrastructure that already existed. Instead of creating supply, they unlocked hidden supply. That's disruption. Now, it's not all sunshine and air mattresses. Airbnb has some serious problems to deal with, and honestly, these challenges could determine whether they thrive or decline over the next decade. First, there's the regulatory nightmare. Cities around the world are cracking down hard on Airbnb. And I'm going to be honest, some of their concerns are valid. In cities like Barcelona, Amsterdam, and parts of New York, Airbnb has been accused of making housing affordability worse. Here's what happens. Investors buy apartments, not to rent to local residents, but to turn them into full-time Airbnb rentals because they can make more money from tourists. This reduces the housing supply for actual residents and drives up rents. Barcelona got so fed up, they basically banned short-term rentals. Amsterdam limits hosts to 30 days a year. New York requires hosts to be present during the stay. These regulations directly hurt Airbnb's business. Second problem, quality control. Unlike hotel chains with brand standards, Airbnb properties are wildly inconsistent. One listing might be absolutely perfect. The next might have bed bugs and look nothing like the photos. Airbnb has tried to address this with verification programs and stricter policies, but it's really hard to maintain consistency when you don't own or control the properties. Third, neighborhood disruption. Imagine living in an apartment building and suddenly half the units are Airbnbs. You've got strangers coming and going constantly, parties on weeknights, people who don't respect building rules because they're only there for 3 days. It creates real tensions in communities. And finally, there's competition. Booking.com has added tons of vacation rentals. VRBO is going strong. Hotels have fought back with better pricing and loyalty programs. Airbnb can't afford to get complacent. Let's talk money, because the numbers are absolutely wild. When Airbnb went public in December 2020, they priced their stock at $68 per share. By the end of the first day, it had more than doubled. The company was suddenly worth over $100 billion. Let that sink in. They went from air mattresses to a $100 billion company in 13 years. In 2023, their revenue hit $9.9 billion. But here's what's impressive. They're actually profitable now. They made $4.8 billion in net income. That's a real sustainable business, not just a cash-burning startup. They're booking over 448 million nights per year. That's more than 1.2 million nights every single day. And their gross booking value, which is the total amount of money changing hands on their platform, exceeded $73 billion. Think about this. Airbnb takes a small cut of each transaction, keeps their costs relatively low because they don't own assets, and prints money. That's the beauty of a platform business. You build it once and it scales almost infinitely. Compare that to a hotel chain. If Marriott wants to double their revenue, they need to buy more land, build more hotels, hire more staff. If Airbnb wants to double their revenue, they just need more people listing their homes and more travelers booking them. The scalability is completely different. So where is Airbnb going from here? Because they're definitely not standing still. First, they're going hard into experiences. Instead of just booking a place to stay, you can book cooking classes with locals, photography tours, surf lessons, wine tastings. Airbnb wants to own your entire trip, not just where you sleep. This is smart because it increases the money they make per traveler and makes their platform stickier. Second, long-term stays. During COVID, something interesting happened. With remote work exploding, people started booking Airbnbs for weeks or months at a time. Why stay in your apartment in Chicago during winter when you could work from a beach house in Mexico for the same price? Airbnb saw this trend and is doubling down on monthly rentals. This segment is way more stable than short-term tourist bookings. Third, they're expanding into new categories. They're testing Airbnb for hotels, which sounds contradictory but makes sense. Some travelers want the reliability of a hotel but like Airbnb's interface and loyalty. They're also exploring transportation and other travel services. But here's the big question. Can they keep growing while also being a good corporate citizen? They need to work with cities, not against them. They need to ensure quality stays consistent. They need to prove they're not destroying neighborhoods but actually helping local economies. The sharing economy has matured. Airbnb is no longer the scrappy underdog. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and with that comes responsibility. How they navigate this next phase will determine their legacy. All right, so what can we learn from Airbnb's success? The biggest lesson is this. The best business models don't create something new. They unlock something that already exists. Airbnb didn't build millions of properties. They realized millions of properties were already sitting there, underutilized. Every Uber driver already owned a car. Every Etsy seller already knew how to craft. Every YouTube creator already had something to say. The platform just connected them with people who wanted what they had. So here's my question for you. What's the next Airbnb? What resource is sitting around, underutilized, just waiting for someone to build a platform around it? Maybe it's tools in people's garages. Maybe it's professional skills people have but don't use full time. Maybe it's something nobody has even thought of yet. And if you want to keep learning about business models like this, about companies that are changing the world, and about opportunities you might be missing, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Seriously, hit that subscribe button. We break down businesses like Airbnb every single week. We show you how they work, how they make money, and what you can learn from them. Whether you're building your own business, investing, or just fascinated by how the world works, this is the channel for you. And drop a comment below. Have you ever used Airbnb? What was your experience? Would you ever become a host? I read every comment and I want to hear your stories. If you made it this far, you're clearly serious about understanding business. So do me a favor. Like this video so more people can learn about this stuff. Share it with someone who's interested in entrepreneurship or investing. And check out the next video I'm putting on screen right now about another incredible business model. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this insight into Airbnb's strategy, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. This is Business Explained.